Hi friends, welcome to the NPTEL course on Leadership for India Inc. Practical Concepts and Constructs. We are in week 12 discussing legendary leadership. In this lecture, we will focus on the closing review of the course. Over the last 12 weeks, we have covered the subject of leadership extensively and in an in-depth manner. We had 61 lectures, including the special lecture on Mahatma Gandhi, the leader beyond any comparison. In this 60-second closing lecture, we will broadly review our journey of Leadership for India Inc. Practical Concepts and Constructs. As part of this course, I have presented to you 1850 unique content slides. These covered multiple concepts and constructs, provided numerous case examples, offered several insightful interpretations, and prescribed several futuristic frameworks. The course comprised several extensive and in-depth discussions, both in the Indian context as well as with global insights. In terms of breadth and depth, from individual leadership to organizational leadership, and from functional leadership to business leadership, almost every conceivable aspect of leadership was considered. This review can recap only a very few highlights from the huge set of data and information presented so far in this course. This was the progression of our 12-week program, starting with Introduction to Leadership and finally culminating in Legendary Leadership. I'll go through the structure as well as the detailed topics. In week 1, when we considered Introduction to Leadership, I discussed various aspects of leadership and management as domains of study. The business context was detailed, as also the integrative nature of leadership and management. I also presented leading management thinkers of the past and the present in terms of 3 lectures summarizing their thoughts. In week 2, when we considered leadership theories, I talked about 5 theories which were established in the past: trait theory, behavioral theory, situational theory, path goal theory, and leader-member exchange theory. In week 3, we discussed leadership for sustainable growth. I pointed out that the role of leadership is not merely business maximization or profit maximization. The business goal also must be to bring in a new socio-economic order of sustainable growth for India and the world. I considered 5 important facets of that: technology leadership, climate leadership, resource leadership, global leadership, and crisis leadership. Crisis leadership was particularly relevant given the COVID-19 pandemic the world has faced and the unprecedented consequences we had to go through because of that. Week 4 focused on competency leadership. I reviewed various leadership qualities, including traits, skills, and attributes, and identified certain common essential qualities. The topics covered in terms of 5 lectures were leadership attributes, apex leadership attributes, leadership essentials, learning to lead, and Indian leader competencies. In week 5, I discussed leadership process, the processes and methodologies for developing leaders in organizations, including through self-development. I brought forth the very important aspect of self-actualization through 1 lecture, followed it up with leadership balance and paradox management. I emphasized the need for leaders to be agile and precise and also have adaptive process. In week 6, I discussed leadership structures, the importance of disrupting established product and service structures, as well as processes to create new growth niches. A very important topic of stature versus title was discussed in lecture 26. I also focused on strategy, structure, and execution, organization structures, effective execution, and building perpetual corporations as part of the week's lectures. Week 7 focused on leadership development and succession, examined the critical aspects of leadership transitions and CEO successions based on Indian and global case studies. Enablement as development, instilling development passion, CEO succession, success factors for succession, and stage and stature, how an organization sets the stage for gaining stature. These were discussed in terms of 5 lectures. In week 8, I focused on functional leadership models, because functional leadership is a prerequisite for overall organizational leadership. I considered leadership for R&D, operations, marketing, finance, and human resource function. In week 9 and week 10, I proposed transformational leadership models. These were unique aspects of leadership models with examples based on specific organizational and business contexts. Part 1 considered those leadership models that were driven by and large by performance developmental attributes. Pioneering leadership, performance leadership, corporate longevity, intellectual leadership, and leadership accountability were discussed as 5 models through 5 lectures. In week 10, I discussed part 2 of transformational leadership models theme, presenting additional transformational leadership models with examples based on specific people development approaches. Charismatic leadership, people leadership, follower leadership, dependence independence leadership, and connected leadership were the topics of these 5 lectures. Week 11 was unique in terms of leadership philosophies. I mentioned that leaders are also human beings, they are not superhuman. I identified and analyzed certain philosophical conundrums of leadership and presented ways to resolve such dilemmas and paradoxes for individual and organizational effectiveness. The 5 topics covered were leadership sensibilities, leadership mistakes, lonely at the top, leadership emotions, and organizational totalitarianism. Week 12 of the course was an important capstone period for our course. We considered legendary leadership, studying 5 leaders from the fields of public eminence, academic excellence, industrial competitiveness, pharmaceutical innovation, and conglomerate development for unique Indian leadership models that could be developed by observing them. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Dr. C.K. Prahalad, Steve Jobs, Dr. K. Reddy, J.R.D. Tata were considered. The course concluded very fittingly with a tribute to Mahatma Gandhi, a leader who defies any comparison nationally and internationally. It built a model of authentic leadership, drawing 10 instructive lessons from his life, which could be applied to any organizational leadership. We are currently into the closing session, taking a quick review of our journey. As I provided such data and information-rich content, I had the challenge whether to follow the script to the dot or to be freewheeling as I presented the slides. I recognize that it would confuse you if I have additional freewheeling discussions as we proceeded on the data and content-rich slides. So I tried to keep to the script as much as possible and try to elaborate where required, and also try to bring in additional perspectives where required. That's how I have delivered the lectures, and I do hope that you have found the lectures helping you to go through the slides in a very focused manner and absorb the perspectives that have been outlined. The entire course is based on the premise I have that leadership is innate in every individual. An approach of learning and development by the individual, a coaching and mentoring boss, a positive and nurturing ecosystem, the firm included, go a long way in bringing out the innate leadership in any individual. With a virtuous circle of empowering factors, and in many cases independent of that too, an individual's innate leadership can be brought out in response to opportunities and challenges faced in the course of ordinary as well as extraordinary life. When faced with emergencies and crises, even ordinary individuals can demonstrate extraordinary leadership. This slide demonstrated 2 models, one of concentric circles and another of intersecting circles. In a similar fashion, I have provided many constructs of different varieties to analyze issues, and these provide you with templates that you can deploy to understand, to analyze, and to interpret any problem that you could come across in your functional life, overall leadership life, or also in individual life. I have proposed, for example, different modalities by which a leader or a firm could be analyzed in terms of the firm's society, nation, economy context, production and manufacturing on one side, and product and service on the other side, or in terms of the business and industry context. So there were different ways one could look at any problem, and I tried to provide you those constructs, and also in the process motivate you and inspire you, hopefully, to think of problems and solutions in an analytical fashion with novel constructs whenever it is required. The journey of self-actualization, which this course tries to inculcate, is a 5-component mantra, starting with self-discovery and culminating in self-actualization. Self-actualization is becoming what one is capable of becoming. It is a journey aided by authentic leadership. The first step of the process is self-discovery of one's abilities. Second step is conversion of those abilities into broader competencies. And setting higher aspirations is the third important step. Leveraging competencies to achieve aspirations is the fourth step, and that is the time when you start getting accomplishments to your credit. But final self-actualization occurs when those accomplishments are of the highest level possible, that is fulfilling your complete spectrum of capabilities, and through that you self-actualize yourself and also actualize the team, society and nation. And this is an iterative journey of self-actualization. As long as one is in formal active or informal active work, this journey of self-actualization must go on in an iterative fashion and also paced as per the life's requirements. The satisfaction that emerges from self-actualization can be truly fulfilling for everyone personally as well as professionally at all levels. I have also tried to redefine results. The word results is very often used somewhat inappropriately. Results are seen to be the endpoints of execution. However, there is considerable confusion as to what constitutes the real expression of effective execution. As the cycle of effective execution below shows, it is a spectrum. Rather than just events and outcomes, accomplishments and actualization would be better reflection of true execution. The process of actualization discussed earlier reminds and teaches leaders that their responsibility is not merely one of achieving something, but one of becoming the best they can, and in the process bringing out the best from their team members. Actualization, therefore, is the ultimate form of execution. You must see this goals to delivery execution paradigm as a kind of speedometer. If the needle is just at the events level, you are just going through motions where you think activity is equal to achievement, which is not so. But if the needle keeps on moving to outcomes, results, accomplishments, and actualization, then the execution is in the topmost gear, and that's what we all must aim for as part of effective execution. Management may be more involved in execution and leadership may be drawn into transformation. That's the subtle difference between management and leadership. However, there cannot be transformation without execution, while execution without requisite transformation will be suboptimal. Leadership and management are thus interlinked. We tend to define manager's role as one that primarily focuses on planning, execution, and controlling. We also see the role as constantly converting plans into reality. We see a manager strengthening the business foundations. On the other hand, we see the leader as one who is primarily focusing on envisioning, strategizing, and influencing the organization, and also both internal and external stakeholders. A leader constantly makes change happen, expands the business horizons, transforms firms and industries. That said, these are not two straight-jacketed separate roles. An effective manager demonstrates the potential for leadership every time he or she encounters a challenge or an opportunity and provides a solution. Similarly, an efficient leader demonstrates a flair for management every time he or she seeks to convert the vision into strategy and then to execution. And this is the synergy of leadership and management that would make companies great. It is the oneness of leadership and management that makes corporations great, sustainable, and perpetual. As I said, I have considered several theories of leadership that were of the past as part of this course because we need to understand how leadership as a domain evolved over the decades. In fact, over the last several decades, several theories of leadership emerged, and this theory review has been done partly to conceptualize and define leadership, and partly with a view to enable managers and aspirants to acquire leadership capabilities. Great person theory, a born leader approach of 1840s. Trait theory, a personality characteristic approach of 1940s. Behavioral theory, a style-oriented approach of 1950s. Situational theory, a situation context-linked approach of 1990s. Path goal theory, a work-oriented approach of 1970s. Leader-member exchange theory, a dyad-based approach of 1990s, all, in my opinion, belong to a past. They are useful from the point of view of learning basic concepts and also understanding how the domain of leadership evolved over time. But today, for today's contemporary competitive requirements and for futuristic transformational requirements, we need skill, competency, philosophy, theory, which I have proposed in this course. It is a hybrid contemporary approach for 2000s and beyond. The several theories of leadership as above point out the challenges and inadequacies of attempting to frame leadership into singular frameworks. Most of the above frameworks are not as relevant today as they probably were at the times of their formulation. As I said, it was, however, important to review them along with the more relevant one of competency theory to lay out the past, present, and future perspectives. Precisely because it is not possible or not appropriate to just offer a singular theory of leadership, I have chosen to provide multiple leadership constructs and multiple leadership opportunities. I have seen the simple word leadership from innumerable angles, and it is a 360-degree approach to leadership that I have taken, not because all the 360-degree approaches would be relevant for your particular context. However, we cannot have one single leadership prescription because the context of the firm would vary, the context of your own leadership would vary. You need to understand and keep in your memory all of these concepts that have been presented so that you would pick and choose the ones which are most appropriate for the leadership context that you face as a leader of the firm or as a manager of the firm and your own personality as a leader. These constructs, these insights help you develop not only your personality but also the firm's competitiveness. That's the whole idea of presenting so much of data and so much of information in this course. Leadership converts vision to execution. A true leader institutionalizes leadership strengths through process. It does not mean merely business processes. It includes an entire gamut of structures, systems, process, and deployment of factory resources. I had told time and again during the lecture that vision is envisioning a future state for the organization, and that future state would not be easily visible. If somebody says that my vision is to become twofold in growth of revenue, that is not a vision at all, because that can be predicted incrementally. What we need to really look at something which is transformational. If you have SpaceX rocket taking people for interstellar or space to earth and earth to space kind of travels, then that is vision. Similarly, if you have an electric vehicle which can run without charge for 1 year, that's a transformational vision. If you have solar power coming from space stations, that's transformative vision. So when we talk about vision, we should think of a capability of a leader which envisages a future state that is not easily visible. Strategy, of course, is the pathway to achieve the future state. Structure is the platform for going through the pathway. Systems provide the framework by which an organization executes, and processes are the actual methodologies to execute. Leadership requires the development and establishment of the right vision, strategy, structure, systems, and processes by which a firm can grow with sustainability. These have to be not only contextually appropriate but also environmentally compliant. Before we go into several other aspects of leadership handpicked for this review lecture, I would also talk about derailed governance. We all want to be effective chief executives, but what makes not only an ineffective chief executive but also a disastrous chief executive also must be considered. If you have derailed governance in an organization, you will have failed corporations. And failed corporations suggest that bad management and bad governance together constitutes a toxic combination that not only destroys corporations but destabilizes other industrial segments and economic sectors. What does usually bad management comprise of? Lack of vision, poor strategy, failure to execute, declining productivity, wasteful investments, and overall mismanagement. And what does bad governance comprise of? Diversion of funds, deliberate mismanagement, nepotism and corruption, siphoning of revenues and profits. Insolvent and bankrupt companies which arise because of a combination of bad management and bad governance will corrode industrial texture, will destroy investor wealth, will weaken the banking system and erode economic strength as well. A fatal combination of strategic misdirection, operational failure, and leadership vacuum contributed to the inferior performance of several failed corporations, apart from willful malfeasance by promoters and or leaders. I spoke about VUCA world. VUCA is an acronym that stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. VUCA represents the various dimensions of uncontrollable environment that an organization faces. So much so, leadership for the VUCA world has arisen as a separate discipline. To handle VUCA, leaders need to bring into play all the 30 competencies. Volatility, the nature to change rapidly and unpredictably, especially for the worse. Uncertainty, inability to understand and predict quantitatively or qualitatively anything. Complexity, the multiplicity of factors impacting and the multiplicity of issues present in anything. Ambiguity, lack of clarity, in fact, the presence of haziness surrounding any issue. The four factors VUCA come together in multiple and unpredictable ways. They confound the decisions already taken or upset future decision making. VUCA severely curtails or disturbs the capacity to look ahead, plan ahead, and move ahead. That's where the challenge of leadership is. Leadership for the VUCA world has to be, therefore, in a continuous learning and development mode. I told in this review beginning that leadership's goal cannot just be business maximization or profit maximization. It has to be something different and beyond. I have proposed as part of one of the lectures focus on 5 forces which would reshape the world order. Change has always been the constant in development. Development is also threatened by multiple forces of discontinuity that snowball over time or arise unexpectedly from time to time. Some of these factors relate to technology, climate, resources, globalism, and crisis. If a leader is able to manage these 5 factors and reshape the world order, he would be a great leader. Of the 5, technology, climate, globalism, and resources are factors that are understood and predictable in various degrees. But crisis events such as the COVID-19 pandemic are completely unpredictable and unanticipated. Leadership needs to ensure sustainability and growth of enterprises, leveraging technology and facing the balance for challenges at all times. I have emphasized throughout the course the importance of technology. However, I didn't mean to say that leaders need to be scientists or technologists, but certainly leaders must have deep appreciation for science and technology. Science and technology can help firms improve known things, discover existing but unknown things, and invent new things. There are 4 aspects of technology. First, discovery, finding out things or ways of doing that were not known to exist. Nanotechnology is a fundamental discovery. Graphene is a fundamental discovery. Invention is bringing out something which has not existed before. A smart device is an invention. Innovation is introducing new things, ideas, or ways of doing. E-commerce is an innovation. Digital food delivery, including cloud kitchen, is an innovation. Improvement is a way of making things or ways of doing better, and that must happen all the time. For an organized social development and also for ensuring planetary balance, we need all of these things happening together in such a manner that resources are conserved, business growth is sustainable, and also profitability is ensured with socio-economic purpose. Leaders should be able to deploy science and technology in the appropriate manner for horizon optimization. I talked about horizons, that is the established business horizon, emerging business horizon, and the future transformative business horizon, and that applies to technologies as well. I brought out the principle of technological balance. The principle of technological balance is a principle that balances the 3 horizons of innovation, the 3 horizons of imitation, and the 3 pivot points for their application. Innovation can be in terms of 3 horizons. One is the incremental innovation. For example, when you have the latest BS6 fuel injection technology in your car, it is incremental innovation, but it is an innovation because you brought in electronics to manage fuel injection, you brought in common rail system to manage innovation. If you have a hybrid motor and IC engine driving the car, it is a breakthrough invention because never before there was a motor that was used in passenger car. On the other hand, if you have completely electric vehicle which is also autonomous, it is disruptive innovation because it completely redefines what an automobile is. We also have replicative imitation, improving imitation, and creative imitation. I took the example of the pharmaceutical industry. If you get exact clone of the innovator product as a generic product, it is replicative imitation. On the other hand, if you bring two known products together and create a more effective drug, that becomes improving imitation. The third aspect of creative imitation could be the same overall molecule, but the salt form could be different to ensure better solubility within the body or better shelf life, lower impurity, and so on. That is creative imitation. I said that the society needs imitation as much as it needs innovation. Innovation brings new technologies onto our horizons and make us seek the new technologies, whereas imitation brings the new technologies to our doorstep. So a society which can encourage and foster both innovation and imitation is the need for tomorrow's times. And these balances can be worked out across the entire product value chain, across the entire customer value chain, or just for a product specific requirement. This principle of technological balance alerts leaders to the multitude of possibilities for applying innovation and imitation at product level or service level and across product value chain or customer value chain. I also talked about the importance of leadership transition. I have taken the example of Tata Group and how Ratan Tata stepped into these shoes of the iconic stalwart J.R.D. Tata. Ratan Tata's tenure was marked by a skillful navigation of change without losing continuity, leveraging environmental opportunities and internal strengths of the group while overcoming, if not eliminating, derailers and distractors. Observing Ratan Tata's leadership of Tata Group for several years, I brought out a 10-factor model of change with continuity which Ratan Tata successfully pursued, and this could be seen in terms of 5 sets. The first was investment plus divestment, create a concept of core, exit non-core businesses or non-core products, reinforce the current core and add new core. Consolidation with professionalization, create group ethics, align leaders, moderate extreme personalized independence while facilitating corporate accomplishment. Third set, globalization with acquisitions, acquire companies globally to strengthen core businesses, focus on turnaround capabilities and cross-border business synergy. Growth with security, create a strong holding company structure for the group, reinforce promoter holdings across all group companies. Innovation with competitiveness, enable group companies to innovate, make companies more competitive, promote self-reliance, functionality and affordability for customers. At the core of Ratan Tata's success had been an effective model of change with continuity on a foundation of the basic Tata philosophy. And what was that? The philosophy was that Tata Group is a trustee of the wealth that the group creates for the nation. Ratan Tata's openness to work with J.R.D. Tata and Tata Sons board, and in turn their support to Ratan Tata's model and their willingness to give Ratan Tata the space and freedom to execute the model, have been no less important. I also talked about certain myths that permeate leadership domains. There are several mythical propositions on leadership development, and a few are striking for their popularity, unfortunately. And in such myths, there may be some truth in each of the propositions, but they are essentially more mythical than real in the practical leadership perspective. Each of these was considered earlier for its respective reality and unreality. Let's look at 5 myths. A leader is born and not made. The fact is that leaders can be developed with education and experience. That's what this course is all about. Only top-rung institutions can turn out global leaders, not necessarily. I have pointed out how people from different institutions could reach to global leadership levels. And there were also cases where you never made it through a degree program, yet established and grew startups into great entrepreneurial ventures and industry leading corporations. The higher one goes, the more macro one needs to be. I have disproved this theory completely. Both macro and micro are essential at all levels. Business skills are more important than technical skills at higher echelons. Again, a wrong statement. Just as you need technological appreciation, you cannot forego your basic technical skills, professional capabilities. Both business and technological skills are essential at the apex level. Leadership skills are fully portable across industries and geographies. Not necessarily. It depends on the industry, market, as well as the leader. So we should not get taken in by popular leadership myths. We have to look at leadership for what it is and what it can be in respect of you and your firm. I also talked about the importance of continuous education. Generally, we think of education as the foundation step and experience as a sequence of several career phases. My proposition is that if you have continuous education throughout your working life, including of course the educational life, and if you also have overlapping experience, then you will be a superior leader. So I divide this entire life journey into graduate education, postgraduate education where applicable, then operational experience phase, managerial experience phase, leadership experience phase, and the top leader experience phase. And this phase could be one of 20 to 70 years, that is about 50 years or even more if you say you are starting the graduate program even earlier to 20 years. Now, to think that you will study only for the first 5 years or 10 years and thereafter it is all experience is seeing the whole paradigm in a wrong prism. While we are going through the graduate education or postgraduate education, we must simultaneously look at gaining work experience through internships, project works, and startup initiatives. Actually, it is in the mature academic setting that we get the first experience. We experience the competitive elements of performance, the group dynamics of human interactions, and the commercialization mechanics of knowledge acquisition. And today, with several opportunities to establish a startup even while being a student, I think education period must be considered as actually the experiential period of the foundational type. Then we get into the operational experience. After that, managerial experience, leadership experience, and top leadership experience. Throughout, we should focus on continuous learning and development. It could be learning new programming languages while talking about operational experience. It could be the management and leadership courses that we have gone through in respect of managerial and leadership experience phases. And when we look at the top leadership, it is about transformational challenges which a leader could have and how the company could be got into a mega trend mode, and how do we have all of technology and business capabilities together at the highest level and also in an industry leading manner to be able to achieve that. So there is going to be continuous learning and development throughout the experience phases, and we should therefore use this academic launchpad as an experience launchpad and also use the actual experience progression as a continuous education paradigm. Together, we will therefore have an integrated academic cum professional path all through our educational and work phase. This is the proposition I make for you. Competence is the most important aspect of leadership. Competence or competency is defined as the ability to do something well. It also represents the knowledge or skill that is required to accomplish a particular thing. Leadership competency is a holistic set of capabilities needed to accomplish leadership tasks, and competencies include attributes, capabilities, traits, and qualities. Let's try to define each of these. Trait is a particular quality in one's personality, and a personality comprises several traits. These traits are ingrained behaviors that upregulate or downregulate knowledge and skill acquisition, as well as interpersonal interactions. And we can upregulate traits themselves. That's again covered in this course. Knowledge gained through education or experience is the underlying understanding of things that enables tasks and outcomes. Skill is the ability to do something well that comes out of knowledge and its practical application. It's craftsmanship, as we know. Character is the set of values and qualities that differentiates one person from the other. I have emphasized again throughout this lecture the importance of character, values, ethics, social responsibility as one of the superior markers of great leadership. Competency is the cumulative result of all of the above drivers and influences. Trait and character are by and large behaviorally ingrained, while knowledge and skill are continuously updated. That said, traits and character can be and need to be modified to enhance knowledge and skill levels and improve leadership effectiveness. This is an important framework of this course. I have brought this framework not only for the first time in one of the lectures but also followed it up throughout, trying to relate that to various leadership models. The 20 foundational developmental and performance leadership attributes and the 10 apex leadership attributes make one a complete leader, a leader capable of leading businesses led by leaders to greater heights. The 10 developmental factors are by and large people related and some of the superior qualitative factors of one's personality. Trust, empathy, passion, courage, integrity, mentorship, empowerment, reflection, aspiration, and commitment are the 10 factors, which I have also defined in one of the lectures and, of course, illustrated with several examples. The 10 performance factors are knowledge, vision, strategy, execution, conceptual and analytical skills, decisiveness, communication, collaboration, and negotiation. Again, these were defined and illustrated profusely. The apex leadership traits, that is, a leader's ability to inspire and lead other leaders, those are called apex leadership traits. Wisdom, stature, innovation, intuition, inspiration, nurturing, networking, ethics, objectivity, socio-economic purpose. And these are the totality of apex leadership competency framework factors. J.R.D. Tata and Ratan Tata, the apex leaders of India's leading conglomerate Tata Group, are in a league of their own. Looking at them, we can see how this apex leadership works. These two stalwarts of distinct generations illustrate how the 30 leadership attributes help the leaders take the Indian industry onto the global stage through a combination of organic and inorganic, national and global initiatives. Having said that competencies are essential, I also have proposed a framework for enhancing the competencies. The framework of 4 leadership essentials, which defines core leadership personality, is as follows. 1. Education, that inculcates a learning mindset. 2. Experience, it builds versatility and resilience in an individual. 3. Instincts, it calibrates risk and reward. And 4. Intuition, it provides differentiation. A framework of self-awareness, that is instinct together with intuition, and self-development, education with experience, helps an individual become a good manager become a good leader, and a good leader a better leader. Each of these 4 is very important. I have also dwelt at considerable length on intuition, how all of us possess some degree of intuition, but we do not recognize that factor to the extent we ought to recognize, and how intuition is free of biases, is free of data, is free of prior influences. It is independent of all of that, and it's a kind of spark that comes from within based on your accumulated knowledge, accumulated experience, and accumulated wisdom of dealing with several situations and several people. And that is the intuition which will make the ultimate difference between the iconic leader and, let's say, a good leader. There are 4 common measures for business growth which are commonly understood. Less understood are the 5 parameters of operational sustainability. Let's look at how these things work. Every leader wants to achieve results, but every leader must also focus on achieving reputation. Companies which are reputed will automatically, in my view, achieve results, but companies which only look at achieving results need not necessarily achieve reputation. When we talk about results, we talk about business growth. Revenue, profit, market share, market capitalization are the 4 pillars of business growth. And these are enabled by things such as vision, strategy, execution triad, which we discussed, the quality aspects of business and product service, and operational excellence. And there could be many others, several of them again we considered in the lecture. But more important than all of these things are the reputational factors, the ESG leadership, environmental empathy, social responsibility, and corporate governance. That's the ESG leadership that is extremely important in today's and tomorrow's context. When business growth is combined with ESG leadership, you will get results with reputation, and that would be an unassailable and unbeatable combination. For leaders, investments and operations that ensure sustainability are as important as those that act as growth drivers. ESG leadership focusing on environment, social, and governance dimensions is therefore very important. I have also proposed 10 leadership models in this course. These can be applied contextually, either singly or in combination, depending on the leader persona and the context of the firm, industry, and economy. I have demonstrated in respect of JRD Tata how running a conglomerate and actually growing it from 14 enterprises to 95 enterprises, JRD Tata has used more than one, in fact, all of these models as part of his leadership journey and as part of his iconic leadership. These transformational leadership models are pioneering leadership, where the leader moves into a pioneering state of vision for the company and brings the company on a growth path always. That if you look at Alphabet, for example, its whole leadership is based on pioneering certain developments which do not exist for today. That's what is meant by pioneering leadership. Then I talked about performance leadership, corporate longevity leadership, intellectual leadership, leadership accountability, charismatic leadership, people leadership, follower leadership, dependence independence leadership, and connected leadership. The first 5, as I said earlier, are based on the performance leadership factors. It doesn't mean that they do not include the development leadership factors. They are also required. They are also required the apex leadership factors. But the primary driver for those 5 leadership models, pioneering, performance, longevity, intellect, and accountability, are performance based. Whereas charismatic leadership, people leadership, follower leadership, dependence independence leadership, and connected leadership are all based on developmental leadership factors. But they also require performance drivers. They also require apex leadership traits. Leadership cannot, as I said, be singularized or seen in parts. Everything is interconnected. But the relative emphasis and the width of the spectrum or the breadth of the spectrum varies depending upon the leader personality and the firm context. These leadership models can therefore be applied in the leadership of functions, businesses, or the firm in the overall. Now we come to the importance of understanding iconic stalwart leaders and gaining some insights from them. I have considered 5 leaders as part of this leadership modeling. Dr. Abdul Kalam from the field of public eminence, Dr. C.K. Prahalad from the field of academic excellence, and Steve Jobs from industrial competitiveness, Dr. Kallam Anjireddy from the field of pharmaceutical innovation, and JRD Tata from conglomerate leadership. While each leadership model provided us with a rich tapestry of leadership insights, for the purpose of this review lecture, I take 2 lessons from 2 great leaders, Dr. Abdul Kalam and Mahatma Gandhi. Dr. Abdul Kalam, former President of India, in his 2008 interview with Knowledge at Wharton, enunciated 6 traits which a good leader must have based on his life experiences, and also quoting specific examples. Trait number 1, the leader must have vision. Without vision, you cannot be a leader, Dr. Abdul Kalam said. Trait number 2, the leader must be able to travel into an unexplored path. Normally, the tendency is for people to travel along well laid out paths. Trait number 3, the leader must know how to manage success, and even more importantly, how to manage failure. Trait number 4, the leader should have the courage to make decisions. Trait number 5, the leader should have nobility in management. Every action of the leader should be transparent, authentic, and genuine. Followers should be able to see the leader for what he is or what she is, and there must be total transparency. And that is the noble way of a leader conveying himself to the larger population as well as the limited team. Trait number 6. And finally, the leader should work with integrity and succeed with integrity. Dr. Abdul Kalam was not only a people's president but also a knowledge president. He had written a 4-line poem-like thing called Creativity. It goes like this: learning gives creativity. Creativity leads to thinking. Thinking provides knowledge. Knowledge makes you great. He had made at least 1 million children repeat these lines as part of his countless meetings with school children. Mahatma Gandhi leadership model. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, whom we call Mahatma Gandhi, had truly been an exceptionally great leader. While his achievements had been spectacular in the political and national arena, not limited to his being the father of the Indian independence, the principles of humanism and leadership he embodied transcend all domains and all generations. The 10 facets are leadership by example, leadership by thematic campaigns, leadership by persistence, leadership by organization, leadership by service, leadership by customers, leadership by self-reliance, leadership by people, leadership by universality, and leadership by engagement. While demonstrating these leadership facets of Mahatma Gandhi, I also came up with corresponding mirror interpretations for business leadership, and that is a great contribution from this course. We can see how we can learn, emulate respectfully from Mahatma Gandhi's leadership. The 10 facets of Mahatma Gandhi's leadership model brought out in this course are applicable to organizational leadership, whether business or administrative, and whether for profit or not for profit. These together constitute a holistic model of humanistic leadership that will ensure growth with socio-economic equity. It has been a great pleasure to do this course. I deemed it an honor and a privilege to be able to compile, to be able to articulate, to be able to visualize, and to be able to bring together innovatively and originally several insights, several constructs, and several observations as part of this leadership course. This NPTEL course therefore provided detailed overview of the multifaceted domain of leadership management included in that, demonstrated the importance of leadership as the engine of industrial, business, and economic growth. It brought out several new constructs based on real-life case examples and practical applications of theory in a multidisciplinary approach. It provided multiple models for executives to be successful and pathways for them to attain positions of leadership in their professions and organizations. Having gone through this course diligently and completely, as I believe you would have, I feel that you would have achieved the following 4 developments within yourself. You would have gained an expansive and deep appreciation of leadership and its pivotal role in professional and organizational growth. You would have developed the conceptual and analytical capabilities to acquit yourselves well in managing and leading your functions and organizations. You would have appreciated management and leadership in your business and economic contexts. You would have also absorbed the broader purpose of leadership and management in social and economic contexts. And above all, as I said, looking at the way the data and information have been presented, you would also have understood how we can view problems creatively, how we can look at problems creatively, how we can analyze problems innovatively, how we can bring multiple dimensions of a particular problem converge into a solution based on our innovative and creative thinking, and the kind of methodologies and tools that could be available for you in terms of conceptual analytics as well as data analytics. And this is a great contribution this course could have done for you, apart from these 4 which I have highlighted to you. From the individual and organizational perspective, I would again emphasize leadership potential exists in every individual. Like any other field of expertise, leadership can be learned and developed. Leadership can be self-taught as well as mentored. This course was hypothesized on the premise that leadership is innate in every individual and can be developed. Leadership processes, leadership structures at times help us develop leadership competencies. On the other hand, our own leadership competencies help us develop better processes and better structures. So everything is interrelated in leadership. Our leadership competencies together with processes and structures enable better leadership outcomes. And while doing this, we should adopt certain good leadership models, contextually relevant, and also we should be open about appreciating and understanding leadership philosophies which form an undertone of all leadership. Leadership is experiential, and that leadership comes not merely from work experience. That leadership of experience or the experience of leadership comes from the academic stage onwards. Assuming, therefore, that the entire course of academic and professional life is one leadership journey, leadership is truly experiential. Understanding the foundations and drivers of leadership is extremely important for ensuring a sustainable leadership base for you. We should also understand the multiple contexts and perspectives that influence leadership. Together with all these perspectives, individuals can evolve as leaders, and leaders can mature into even better leaders. With this final note, I wish you all the very best in your leadership journey. I indeed thank you from the bottom of my heart for having attended this course and participated in this journey of leadership. It has been a great learning experience for me too, trying to present so much data and information to you for the betterment of the leadership domain. And of course, I'll be failing in my duty if I don't thank NPTEL for this great opportunity and for this wonderful digital platform. And the NPTEL team, particularly at IIT Madras, has been of great support and motivation to me in organizing this course, in creating the content, and in delivering this to you. Thank you, NPTEL team, and thank you, dear participants. I wish you all the best.